You're checking out the Investor Shed podcast with Nick Beveridge and Jeremy Kitchen. They're on the path to financial freedom and they're taking their community with them. Stay tuned for the best free real estate investing advice on the internet.
Welcome to the Investor Shed podcast. My name is Nick Beveridge and I am here with another co-host. His name is Jeremy Dwellian Kitchen.
I'm the man, the myth, the legend. I'm not another co-host. I am the co-host. How's it going today, Nick?
Another one. Today is going fantastic. It is Monday. Feeling good. Man, I have nothing on the calendar today, which is very unusual for me. Usually my calendar is just full of crap. So when I get out of here, I get to go do what I want, it feels really good.
That's a beautiful thing for sure. I got some calls I got to make, but other than that, it's a good day. So speaking of good days, we've got Brad Chandler on, and he is sure to help you have a good day. Brad is a wholesaler, and he is a mental health advocate. He's got his own coaching going. A lot of great things. Tell us a little bit more, Nick.
Yeah. So you guys are in for a treat today. We've got a guy who's doing and has done a lot of business. We get to speak to somebody who has done over 4,000 real estate transactions over the last 20 years. Right now, he's more focused on his mental health practice, but just last year he sold almost 300 homes. And if you stick around till close to the end, you're going to be able to hear exactly how he set his team up and what that looks like. So yeah, I'm excited. We might as well just get right into it. So grab some peanut butter toast.
Unless you have celiacs.
Rub it on your thighs and dig in.
Let's go.
All right. Welcome back to the Investor Shed podcast. We are here. We had the pleasure of speaking with Brad Chandler today. Brad, how are you doing this morning?
I'm awesome. Thank you. How are you?
Doing great. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm doing so good. Happy to be here as always. Super stoked for Brad Chandler today. We'll kind of jump right in. So Brad, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in real estate investing.
Yeah, man, I read a book, surprisingly, in ninth grade on how to buy real estate with no money down. At that point in time, I was like, hey, I can make a lot of money in real estate. So this is what I'm going to do. And fast forward to 2003, an investor bought my neighbor's house in Vienna, Virginia, and I went and talked to him. And he's like, yeah, I buy houses 30% below market, fix them up and resell them. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. And spent 8 long months working a full-time job. I just had a newborn son. I'd come home from my job at 6, spend 8 till 8 o'clock with him, put him to bed, and then I'd work from like 8 to 11 or midnight every night, work the weekends. And every week that went by, I wasn't getting deals, but I was seeing everyone else getting deals. And I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. So in July of 2003, I bought my first house. In July and August of 2003, I bought 6 houses. In October, I came home from my full-time job, and I said to my wife, I just quit and I'm starting Express Homebuyers. She's like, what are you talking about? We have a newborn kid and I've got 2 kids to support. I'm like, everything will be fine. And here we are. She's not with me any longer, but 20 years later, everything was fine.
Yeah, of course. What do you remember what you were doing back then before you jumped into real estate?
Of course, I was so I had gone and got my MBA in real estate as well. I graduated in 2000, and then I worked for a developer who bought rundown apartments and fixed them up and either rented them or sold them as condos.
Okay, so you were kind of already in the industry.
Yep.
Went to college for it. I'm a real estate agent. There's not a whole lot of people that went to college for real estate and then ended up jumping into the field. They usually, went to college for something like engineers are really common. Engineers usually end up leaving their job and coming into real estate. So that's pretty cool. You had an educational background. Did it help you much at all?
I mean, it's hard. It did, especially, we've borrowed and returned probably over $300 million. We've never lost one penny of an investor's money. And a big bulk of that was through my MBA program. I met someone who was also a graduate that had graduated years before, and we hooked up. So absolutely, like for business skills and stuff, did it help like a credible level? No. I mean, if I had not gone to 6 years of school and had gone and worked for a good like developer or house flipper or something, would I be in a better off situation, maybe.
Okay. So, what market were you investing in?
Well, so I live in Virginia, so it was the DC metro areas where we started.
Okay. So you bought that many houses and you were just buying locally?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, of the 4,000 houses now, we've bought most of them. 90% of them have been, or probably 95% of them have been in the Baltimore and Washington D.C. metro areas. The other 5% have been all over the country. And last year we opened up Los Angeles, so we're doing a little bit of investing in Los Angeles.
Gotcha. So you're actually kind of going after the higher end markets. Is that right?
Not necessarily. It was kind of crazy how we got into LA. We had a top employee move there, and we were going to have him work virtually. And then one day I'm like, well, why don't we just start running some of our marketing's pretty good. Why don't we run some marketing in LA? And we did, and we got a couple houses.
Okay, great. So, how were you able to do that? Going from a full-time job to within just a couple of months buying 7 properties, including your own house?
So, I mean, it was kind of the snowball rolling downhill, and it was kind of my attitude around persistence. I just didn't give up. I put out a lot of feelers. I put out a lot of marketing. Not a lot. I didn't have any money. I had a negative $80,000 net worth. So, when I say a lot of marketing, I guess I really didn't. But I was putting, We Buy Houses signs out. The first 3 houses I bought were from a We Buy Houses sign on my wife's car at the time. And I think all of those, all of that effort over 8 months just kind of came to a head in July and August, and probably just got lucky too. I got better talking to sellers. I got more confident.
Okay. Were you closing on these deals, or were you assigning them, or did you keep them as rentals?
I mean, so it's so funny when I remember going to these, they didn't have meetups then, but they had Real Estate Investor Association meetings. And back then, wholesalers would be like happy to make a $5,000 fee, right? So it was the wholesale. This is my silly brain and the way that I was told or taught, or maybe it was just my perception. Wholesalers are for the less sophisticated people who don't have the credit and don't have the ability to buy. And so no, we didn't wholesale for years and years and years because I thought you could only make like a $5,000 fee, and I'm like, well, why wouldn't I do the renovation and make 35,000? So that's what I did. But
Yeah. And just to preface this, I mean, 2003, that was already 20 years ago. $5,000 back then, I mean, that's got to feel like 10 grand today or so, right?
probably close to that, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like it wasn't a lot.
You trying to make me feel old, dude?
No. Yeah, no, 2003, I was in high school. And I was obsessed with real estate back then. I just wasn't able to jump into it quite then. So sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
I was going to talk about, so you did the 4,000 houses. Right now you're doing a lot of life coaching. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that and how that's brought joy to your life and how you're bringing joy to others through that?
Yeah, I like to consider myself a happiness coach. So about 2 years ago, trying to get my son help for anxiety, I was on a Zoom call and this lady said, "You have a tic." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You blink profusely when you talk about your childhood. You probably have some unresolved childhood trauma. Do you want to come out and work with my ex-Navy SEAL husband?" And me in Park City, I'm like, "Of course." She's like, "It's going to help your son for sure." So I went out there for a weekend and literally in a 3-hour session with this guy, Larry, I came out of that room a completely different human being. We went back to my childhood and scenes in my childhood where I lacked control or some type of stress or trauma. And as a child, when something like that happens to you, you form a story. So a 6-year-old gets hit or something, father spanks him, whatever. That 6-year-old says, "I must be bad." And that programming is great to get them through the trauma or the stress, but it lasts with them. So at 47 years old, my brain was still telling me, "You're bad, you're not good enough, you can't live up to anything." So for 47 years, through failed marriages and marijuana use and alcohol, I made 5 business mistakes that cost me $9 million. There was always like this missing piece. I made a lot of money, have a big boat, have a luxury car, but I would feel uncomfortable like in social settings. Like I had to smoke weed or drink a little bit to feel like I could be myself and get out there and dance and make jokes and stuff. And so in that 3-hour session, everything changed. And I started to believe that, hey, I don't need to prove anything to the world. And my life so profoundly changed that I was like, I've got to give this gift back to other people. So last year, after studying for hundreds and hundreds of hours and reading 40 books and studying under what I think are some of the best in the world in this business, I started coaching. And now I'm in a great position where I'm helping to change people's lives as well.
That's awesome. So do you feel like you're getting better satisfaction out of doing that line of work than you are buying houses every year?
So, in hindsight, I started real estate. I mentioned because I wanted to make a bunch of money, right? I didn't know why I wanted to make a bunch of money, but now I do, and it was to prove my worth because my father kind of showed his love through money, and my mother has a scarcity mindset around money, so I get that like kind of the double whammy. So I was trying to make a lot of money because I thought if I could make a lot of money, that would bring me happiness, and that would show the world that I was worthy. And um, that's just a complete misnomer. It's complete untruth. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Just look at the Michael Jacksons and the Princes, and we go on and on and on. Money doesn't bring any happiness as long as you have enough to pay your bills, which is probably 70, $80,000. Money doesn't bring any happiness. So to answer your question, um, I was put on this earth now after 47 years. I found my purpose, and that is to help other people find happiness if they're whether they're struggling with addictions or bad marriages or their business is in chaos, weight. I mean, just depression, anxiety, OCD. All of that stuff is all tied back to one thing. If you have a problem right now in your life, I promise you, it all goes back to your thinking. And I'm becoming an expert on how to change that thinking for people.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that you basically got to meet with somebody for how long did you say? Maybe just a half hour or so?
So it was a weekend. It was a kind of a weekend retreat, but all the magic happened in 3 hours. And that's ironically how when I meet with my clients now, it's somewhere between the 3 and 5 hour mark where they make this massive transformative shift, and they're like, "Oh my God, I lived under these lies all my life, and here's all the destruction it caused me."
Yeah. So if somebody wanted to be coached by you or whatever services you offered, what kind of expectations could they expect when they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I offer what I call a free 30-minute freedom and happiness call. So if you just go to bradchandler.com/contact, I put out a daily message on freedom and happiness through social media, and I'm on every social media platform, so they can connect with me there and they can schedule a call there. It's a 5-week program, doesn't take a ton of time. If you want change in your life and you're willing to look at things from a different perspective, I literally have a proven method to radically transform your life if that's what you're looking for.
Awesome. Okay, great. Um, can you tell us, if changing topics a little bit, if we can go back to real estate, and then maybe we'll come back to this again. Um, what, how has real estate been over the last few years for you? Are you still, what does your company mostly do? Are you buying and holding?
No, we don't really do any buy and hold. It's really hard to do buy and hold in the DC metro area. I mean, just because the price points are so high. So we're doing a combination, it goes back and forth kind of 60-40, 40-60 between wholesaling and fix and flip.
Okay, gotcha. What do you enjoy doing more?
So wholesaling, I mean, I used to have a coaching company that taught people how to wholesale houses because the renovation part of this business is bar none the hardest part of this business. Renovating one house is hard enough. When you renovate 5 houses at one time, it's not 5 times as hard. It's like 50 times as hard. So I definitely enjoy getting houses under contract and wholesaling them and moving on.
Yeah, Nick knows all about having 5 projects going on at once. This last year was kind of a weird one for everybody, but we're getting through it. So
Yeah. So I started fixing and flipping homes almost 10 years ago. And usually my brother and I would do it together. I'm like the agent that goes out and finds deals, and I would kind of coordinate the renovation, and my brother would be on site doing a lot of the work, and we'd usually have a laborer or two to help see this fix and flip all the way through. And we did pretty good, but we can only do, maybe one at a time. Eventually, we got a couple more people to help us out, and we started doing like 2 at a time. And that was actually pretty hard. And I was also trying to run this real estate team of, at the time, I think 6 or 7 people. And then I just got a hair at my ass to take on a lot more projects because we just started becoming more and more known as this investor group, had more wholesalers bring me deals. And I thought, if I just hired some people, I bet you I can take on a lot of projects. And over the last couple of years, I think I got a year ago, I think I had 26 projects going on, a mix between burrs, flips, new builds. And by the way, I was kind of newer in the new build business. I only had a couple of years of experience doing that, but it was, it's been the worst experience of my life.
I mean, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, oh my God. Oh, whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just sat on the sidelines and watched this guy. I'm like, oh.
Winding that down, I fortunately haven't lost my entire net worth yet, just half of it.
This is a year for rebuilding. That's good stuff. Brad, I do want to talk about how you actually go about comping properties, and as far as how you leave meat on the bone as far as a wholesaler. I know a lot of people kind of, they didn't leave a lot of meat on the bone for the wholesalers for us this year. So how do you make it so whoever you're wholesaling the deal to still ends up making money?
Yeah. So how we comp properties is interesting in this market. You have got to put more emphasis on the actives than the solds when the prices are declining. New investors have, over the last 10 years, I haven't looked at any real estate training, but I bet you it focused all on solds, because as the market's going up, who cares what the actives are? And now you've really got to be careful, because the actives can tell a much better story than the sold. So if a property sold for 350, a month ago, and you use that as your comp, and there's an active for 320 or 310, and it's been sitting there for 30 days, like, no way your house is 350. So I'm sure around the country right now, as we speak, people are getting houses under contract in declining markets, and they're not looking at the actives. So that's just a little gold nugget to throw out to everyone listening. Make sure you're looking at the actives. So I mean, what we try to buy it at enough room to know that an investor can make a reasonable return. Sometimes we have the ability to take down properties, so sometimes we'll take a shot at it, and if we can't sell it, then we will take it down and rehab it. So yeah, we understand, because we're wholesalers, so we just try to get it a number where we can sell it, and there's enough room for them to make money.
Yeah. How do you, what's the difference between running a wholesale business versus running a real estate agent team where you're brokering transactions? Like, if you had to sum it up in 30 seconds or so, do you know what I mean by that? I mean, because you've been on a real estate agent team.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been asked that. Yeah.
But like, you're still just going out getting deals and selling them. I'm just curious, what are the fundamental differences?
So, I mean, I've never been asked that question. It's a really great question. I mean, you've got employees, you've got marketing. We spend a lot of time trying to build out the buyer side of the business, which we now outsource that to Investor Lift on the investment side. So it's interesting. I mean, I not given a lot of thought on this question. Is there that much difference? You're training people to go out and talk to sellers. You've got to go find the buyers as well. Although I guess as an agent, you just kind of list them, but we were trying to actually build out where we could get buyers kind of like in a ready pool. So I guess they're fairly similar.
Yeah, that's what I always thought, because I think we're, my partner and I that run this real estate team together, we're very investor focused. We've got at least, a database of about 2,600 people, and at least 800 of them, we know that group of people, they've come to our investor meetups. We've met them in person. They said that they're either investors or they want to be. So we've got this buyers list. And we just finally decided, we had these agents on our team that they're spending half their time wholesaling, and we're not getting a piece of it. And then they're basically, and then sometimes they're doing some brokering. But we're kind of switching our business this year, and we're going to incorporate wholesaling into our team, and we're just going to try it. I don't really know of any other real estate teams out there that do that. But we're going to help with the marketing and the dispositions. Do you have any advice for me?
You're just going to start offering that as an option. You're going to go out and get the house under contract as opposed to a listing.
Yeah. So we've already been kind of doing it experimentally. Like we decided a year ago, for the agents on our team that want to go out and do some wholesaling or find potential listings, why don't you just use Deal Machine like investors do? We'll pay for some of the marketing, and then you go try to get off-market deals with postcards, lock it up, and then they would either wholesale it to myself or my partner or one of our builder partners. And then they started really enjoying and putting almost half their efforts into this. And we just decided, hey, why don't we actually incorporate this as a real part of our business, where we're actually getting a piece of this wholesale fee, instead of just paying for the marketing and not really getting anything if we don't buy the deal. And we'll help with the dispositions and step up our marketing and make that half of our focus.
Yeah, I think the advice I could give you is number one. Oftentimes in business, you start something and you don't look at the intended consequences. So if you start an activity like wholesaling and the agents really like it, could it possibly cannibalize your realty listing business? So I would keep an eye on that. And then the other thing I would say is that you're seeing more and more investor friendly realty teams around the country. So I don't know why you wouldn't offer a cash offer to every single seller that you meet with. Hey, we can list your house for this long. It's probably going to take you this long. We also offer a cash option. Here's your cash option. And if they don't want it, they don't want it. But at least there's going to be someone that's going to come along and be like, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And we usually had that as an option. But if we made it more of a focus, I'm sure we'd get more out of it.
Yeah, that's really good.
What made you want to sell your real estate team?
So this plays more into, and again, in hindsight, I started a realty team with the goal of becoming the first agent team to sell $1 billion worth of real estate in 1 year. You might want to guess why I did that. Again, to prove my worth. And so in doing that, we got to 780 transactions or something for $120 million, but we probably lost $1 million on that business, because I just kept hiring and hiring and hiring and hiring and hiring. And, that's another unforeseen thing. I started a Facebook group called How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. And my live stream tonight is going to be how self-love, affects your bottom line of your business. And people are going to listen to that and be like, well, that's so ridiculous. And I'm living proof that it's not, because when you have the issues that we're talking about, when you lack self-love and you're trying to fight for your worth, you do these silly things in your business. Like, why did I lose $9 million? They were all around this silly stuff. And I had dinner with a lady last two nights ago in Scottsdale, and she's a coach that helps entrepreneurs. And this guy scaled his company to $10 million, but he would not hire someone that he needed. And after doing the work, they figured out that his mind, his deeply programmed mind, was telling him, you're going to fail anyway, so there's no need to hire the creative director. So when you can make the shift from trying to make a bunch of money to prove your worth to trying to make an impact like I've done, everything in your business changes. Like, we had one of our best years ever last year. Is it any coincidence that was around the time that I started to, focus on making an impact rather than driving people to make a ton of money?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. What do you think was the one biggest reason why you lost all that money?
Trying to prove myself. Simple.
Just trying to prove yourself.
Trying to prove myself. Yep. We would start new markets when we didn't even have, like, we had the realty company in 2008 to 2010, and we couldn't even keep our brochure boxes on the front of the houses filled in DC. But yet I drove to Virginia Beach and in like 6 days opened an office and hired like 5 people. And in hindsight, it's like, how silly were you? You didn't even have your procedures down here. But what my mind was telling me, again, subconsciously, not consciously, that, oh, well, if you go open up and make a bunch of money in Virginia Beach, you might be worthy.
I can totally relate to that. You don't get your business completely, perfect yet, and you just go start something else.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. I'm totally guilty of that. It's probably because my dad never truly loved me. I don't know.
But he did okay from the outside, but who knows?
I mean, you laugh, but childhood shit is really the cause of 99% of problems in this world, because there's very few of us that had all of our needs met as a child. And those programming that happens just lives with us and dominates all areas of your life. It's insane. And I've had such this awakening that I look around now and see all of these people everywhere in really bad situations, whether it's business or health or divorce, relationships. And it all comes back to everything we're talking about. It's the way they think, but the way they think is flawed based on what they went through as a child. And it can all be turned around in a matter of hours.
Absolutely.
No, it's totally true. I mean, and I know I just joked about it a minute ago, but I mean, there's truth to it. Like my dad sold real estate in the 90s. He wasn't very good at it, I don't think. He eventually failed, but Yeah, I thought, I got into real estate, obviously, clearly to try to impress my dad. Didn't work. I don't think he cares, but I'm still out there trying to impress a guy that doesn't give a shit. So obviously there's something wrong with me, but I think everybody has something wrong with them that drives them.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with you. Your circumstances doesn't make something wrong with you. It's just it is what it is, and as an adult with awareness, you can change it.
Nice. I do want to dive into your mindset a little bit here, Brad. I do think like mindset itself is just fascinating. Like our bodies, like we're a blob of jelly in our heads that can barely power a light bulb that sometimes give us anxiety. It's a weird concept, and like your mind can be your best friend or your greatest enemy. And the one thing that can talk you out of something is yourself. Do you have any practical advice for somebody to kind of get over those humps and to just stay positive?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's everything I've been talking about, right? So when I hear about mindset, I think about like the Zig Ziglars and the Tony Robbins of the world, and all of that. Pardon my French, but all of that mindset training is complete bullshit. If you have deeply programmed untruths from childhood because you've gone through stress. So yeah, I mean, if you have a negative attitude or you're stressed or you're anxious or depressed, you need to go work with someone who is going to be able to figure out what is the untruths that your subconscious mind is telling yourself. And as soon as you become, because your unconscious mind, by the way, knows exactly the source of your problems. It's just traditional therapy doesn't tap into it because they focus on the conscious. So I use hypnosis, and when you get into hypnosis, it's basically like a meditative, deep relaxed state. You can access and focus on a subconscious mind. So you ask someone literally, like while they're relaxed, hey, what is the cause of your depression or your bad thinking or your shitty behavior? And they'll go there every time. Oh, it was when my dad did this to me, or my mom was supposed to pick me up. And then you're aware of what's driving your behavior, and then you can change your behavior.
Gotcha. So Brad, just to play devil's advocate here, if I may, let's say somebody like me goes through your program and with the anticipation of maybe I can just relax a little bit, or be, bottom line, realize that I'm not trying to prove anything anymore to anybody, or I don't have to prove myself to anybody. What do you think that could have negative negative effects on my business in the future because I've kind of let go of that drive? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, 100%. So of all the clients I've worked with, I worked with a young gentleman who was the only one that didn't fully embrace change because he was afraid of that one thing. And no, it's just the opposite, and I'm proof of it, because when you're in a mentality where you're trying to fight for your worth and make a bunch of money, that's not really how the best way to run a business. Isn't the best way to run a business to like problem solve and focus on impact? So now I coach my people here. And look, if you've got people, you've got problems, meaning that all of these folks have the same mindset issue problems that we're talking about. So the first person I ever helped was one of my virtual assistants. She's in her mid-30s in the Philippines. She had she slept 2 or 3 hours a night. She had debilitating migraines. She had massive anxiety. How productive do you think that person could be? I worked with her, and in three sessions, she's completely changed. So no, I don't believe that at all. And look at my business. Once I made the shift from trying to make a bunch of money to let's make the biggest impact I can possibly make, that's when you're going to make the most money. Just always be, look at the seller. How can I just, if your mind is clouded and you've got a seller and it's like money or their best interest, if you can choose their best interest, you might lose some money at first, but in the end, you're always going to make more money.
Yeah. Well, I believe that just because in other parts of my business, I've kind of experienced that when I just let go and focus on other people and pour into them. Seems like the more you do for other people, the more it just comes back to you, whether you like it or not.
Absolutely. We try to all provide value here, and this is great so far. So definitely, yeah. Nick, do you have anything you kind of want to go into right now?
No, we can go to the next question.
Okay, cool. I did want to kind of talk about you surviving and thriving in a downturn market. Obviously, everybody knows we're getting to that point right now for sure, at least in the Northwest. I'm not sure about where you're at, but do you have any tips for anyone surviving and thriving, or do you want to talk about how you did that before?
Yeah, I mean, we went through the worst real estate downturn in the history of real estate, right? In 2008 to 2012. We got lean. We started giving incentives to brokers to sell our houses. We started, literally going to broker's office, taking people out. We made sure that our renovations were the nicest in the neighborhood. We started doing, staging, which all this stuff we're starting to do again, staging, making our renovations look absolutely exceptional, and then making sure that the yard looks really good, because if someone pulls up to a house and the yard looks like shit, like, we didn't have to do these things the last 5, 6, 7, 10 years, right? Now we're having to do those. So I would do those. I would focus on the actives more than the solds. If you're in a declining market and your ARV, your after repair value, is 300,000, I can remember back in 2008, we'd look at that and we'd say, we're going to take off 5%. So let's do the ARV at 285 instead of 300. Focus on your expenses. Make sure that you're really looking at your marketing analytics. And then, it's full circle back to what I keep talking about, like, just focus on an impact. How, even in these times, how can you deliver the most value to your clients, your employees, your investors?
I love that.
Awesome. Are you willing to share a little bit about your personal organization chart and how you're able to do? I think you mentioned just before we started this podcast, you sold just shy of 300 homes last year. Is that right?
Yep.
How is somebody able to do that, and what kind of team do they need behind them?
So yeah, I did that working about 2 hours a week in the business. So we have a CFO that has operational expertise. So he's almost kind of like a CFO, COO. And then I have a lady on my team who also kind of helps out with operations. She's like an operations manager, sales support manager. And then I have someone who heads up dispositions, and I have someone who heads up acquisitions. And we have like 4 or 5 people in our acquisition department. And then the person that heads up dispositions, he has like 1.5 people underneath him. And then we have a team of about 11 or 12 full-time virtual assistants that work with us as well.
Okay. Gotcha. And did you put together this organization chart based off some sort of proven model out there, or is it something that you adopted yourself over time with just building up to that?
No, I mean, it's just something we put in. I mean, we've been doing this now for 20 years. My business partner has a guy that has a very successful carpet business that sold to a private equity firm, and he had been telling us for years, you need an operationally strong CFO. That's what you guys need. And so a little over a year ago, we got that, and it's been nice.
Perfect. So for the listeners out there who are more just about the how to, can we recap that a little bit? So you got a CFO underneath you, right? And then you got an operations manager lady, you got a guy in dispo, and then you got an acquisition team of about 5.
Yep. And someone that runs acquisition.
And then it sounds like you got a pretty heavy virtual assistant team of 10 or so. What do those people do?
They do a lot of sales support, like taking leads. They do stuff like turning off utilities. So it's a mix between acquisitions, dispositions, and sales support. But a better question may be question would be like, how does someone get from where I am or from where they are to where I am? And you want to hire someone like an admin who, if you're doing $20 an hour tasks, the first hire you need is an admin to take that off your plate. And then probably the second person that you need is either sales or marketing. It's probably going to be sales, where you replace yourself in the sales component so you can work on your business. And then maybe the next one would be, the marketing person.
Gotcha.
You don't want to go hire CFO if you're doing flipping 3 houses a year. Don't go hire CFO.
Yeah. Well, CFO, that sounds like a very last hire, right?
Again, if they're operationally strong, no. But yes, in the grand scheme of things, yes, CFO would be.
I mean, just before you're stepping out, your full-time role.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of stepping in your shoes, right? Or am I wrong on that?
Well, I mean, I'm still technically the CEO, so yeah, kind of.
Awesome. Real quick, Brad, I do want to jump back to the beginning of the episode. You said you read a book in 9th grade that talked about real estate. What was that book?
Robert Allen's How to Buy Real Estate with No Money Down.
Okay, perfect. I think that one might be in my library, actually. I haven't actually read it, but that's there. So
That's a classic.
And then you talked about one other thing. So you said you lost $5 million, or what was it? 5 mistakes you made in losing $9 million. Is that correct?
Yep.
Can you tell us those 5 mistakes you made?
Yeah. So $1 million was $1 million was around the realty business. We bought 3 development deals in a house in the summer of 2005. So remember, I bought my first house in 2003. The first 5 months of 2005, I think we made like $1.5 million. So I thought I was the smartest guy in the world. Everyone else is dumb. So I'm going to start doing development deals. So we bought 2 multi-units in a house that cost us $3 million and 10 years to extricate ourselves from one of them. I got involved in a trademark lawsuit, We Buy Houses trademark lawsuit, where I got the trademark canceled for all the investors around the country. So if you want to send me some money, you can. That cost $2 million. And then I try to forget these mistakes, guys. We were renovating 80 houses at one time. And just like similar to you, Nick, we lost millions of dollars doing that as well. Just costs went out of control. We had bad contractors. I think that's 4. That's millions right there. That's enough. I can't. If I name 4, I can't remember the 5th. It'll come to me.
No, yeah, that's okay.
All right. So for the investors out there listening, how to lose millions of dollars, get into development, flip multiple houses at the same time, and get into some lawsuits.
Yes.
That sounds good.
Do stuff you really don't know what you're doing, but you think you do.
Yeah,
It's solid don't do advice for sure.
I honestly, I know we joke, but I think this is like just golden advice to like talk about your mistakes, stuff that I'm sure. I would imagine you got some of your gray hairs from these items here, right?
No, I had gray hair at 19. So,
Never mind.
I'm well on my way. We're good. Yeah. So going forward in real estate, Brad, what are you looking for in deals? Are you going to continue looking to do flips and wholesaling? Or are you going to look to scale out into different branches?
yeah, no, we're gonna. I mean, look, a lot of it depends on the market, right? We're gonna do what the market gives us. If prices continue to decline, we're gonna start buying and holding again. We made some good money buying houses in 2010 to 2012. We bought 80 houses, held them, sold them a couple years later. So we'll give what the market, we'll take what the market gives us. We are going to continue to kind of hone and perfect our operational expertise in this business, and then, hopefully try to do more business in Los Angeles, Baltimore, and DC, and then maybe expand to some close by cities.
Interesting. What's your portfolio look like now, Brad, by the way?
I mean, we divested of most of it. We just hold a couple of things now.
Gotcha. Okay.
What's your house buying criteria?
So again, it's changed over the last couple of months, but we're careful on how far out we buy from city center. But we're typically looking at depending on the area, buying anywhere between 65 and 78% of after repair value minus renovation costs.
Okay, 65 to 78%.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Is the lower number, is that for things that need like heavier rehabs or that are a little bit further out from the city centers?
Yeah, the more risky that the lower we want to buy.
Makes sense. All right. And then going forward, so again, you talked about kind of your real estate plans, but what's your total goals in the next 5 years? Are you planning to work more on your mental health coaching, or are you more looking to do in real estate, or are you trying to do a mix of both?
I mean, honestly, I want to extricate myself totally from the real estate business. My passion lies around helping people find happiness and freedom in their life. So, we spoke about impact. I mean, I want to impact millions of people in this space. So I've got some really cool ideas on how to do that. And then I'm going to be focused on that.
Awesome. Nick, anything you want to add before we start kind of get into the wind down?
No, let's keep going with the questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Brad, by the way, this has been super great. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to have just a couple random questions, not random, but they are predetermined questions. But first one is, if you had one business or investing book you recommend every single investor or someone looking to get into mindset or, how to help themselves, what would that be?
Yeah. And I want to talk about self-love before we wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So Robert Sheeman is a friend of mine, and he was one of the only seminars I went to years ago in Vegas. His books, he's got like 3 or 4 books on house flipping. They're really, really good. Robert Sheeman, Shemin, on the happiness front, I mean, I've read 40 something books in the last 2 years, but one of the ones I recommend most is called Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach, Brach. And it's really all about radically accepting who you are and in your life and circumstances. A key to happiness is letting every situation be as it is rather than what you think it should be, and then making the best of it.
I love that. That's really good.
That's awesome.
And the next one is, if you were given or received $30 million in your bank account, what's the first thing you buy, or what's the first thing you'd spend it on?
I would definitely buy a private jet.
I love it. Why is that?
So I like to travel, and I've flown. I've been fortunate just to take one trip on a private jet to a golf event and then back. And I mean, you literally drive up, you go through into, like, you park about 5 feet from the freaking aircraft. You get out, you walk on, and they call wheels up in like minutes. And then when you land, your car is parked, they're washed, the trunk is open, you walk off the plane, no IDs, no scanning, no taking off your shoes, and then you're on your way.
Man, that sounds awesome. I hate airports.
One of these days.
We'll get out of economy one of these days, I'm sure of it. What advice would you give to a newer investor looking to get started on their first or second deal?
Persistence, right? First of all, get your mindset right. So make sure why are you doing the business? And maybe you need the money. Maybe you need to feed your family, and that's fine. But persistence, and just I would say buy a really targeted list and cold call or text or mail it. Just do something cheap. Don't go spend a fortune, and just grow through. Like, lead with revenue. Once you make some money, then put some more marketing dollars in.
That's right. That's good. And then how would you define success, Brad?
So I'm going to steal the definition from the guy who led me through my transformation, Larry Yach, amazing individual. His definition, which I love more than anything I've ever heard, is a daily optimized experience repeatable over time. For all of my life, I correlated success with money. And if you turn on the TV, that's all you hear. Like, everyone wants to correlate success with money. But I can assure you, success has nothing to do with money. Again, let's go look at Prince and Michael Jackson. They had a lot of money and they killed themselves, right? So success is, to me, it's really just living an authentic, fulfilled life.
I love that. I couldn't agree more with that. That was very good. And then, so when you're not investing and you're not impacting other people's lives, what do you like to do with your free time?
Boating, kite surfing, wake surfing, golfing. I work out all the time. I'm a health nut, longevity nut.
I love it. That's good.
Awesome.
And then where can people find out more about you, Brad?
BradChandler.com. And what I was going to say about the self-love thing is, if we had this conversation 3 years ago and you said, hey, do you love yourself? I'd have been like, absolutely. But that wasn't the case, right? So I developed this 12-question quiz at bradchandler.com/quiz, and you can take it. I would highly urge everyone to take it, because here's the thing. If you score anything less than extreme self-love, mild self-love, or lack of self-love, two things. Number one, I promise you, your life is affected in all areas on a negative basis, from your relationships to your business to your health. So take that. Number two, don't be disappointed that you don't have extreme self-love, because that means that you have the opportunity to radically transform your life. So I put out messages like this on a daily basis on all the social media platforms, and they can, if you want to connect with me there, or schedule a free 30-minute call at bradchandler.com/contact.
That's awesome. And I think if for anyone listening that does take that quiz, if you're going to take it, be authentic, right? So don't try to pull your punches or anything like that, because you're going to get the most value out of finding out where you're at and finding out how Brad can help you. Absolutely. So, well, awesome. Nick, you want to take us out here?
Yeah. So one more thing, since we got a little bit of time, if you got time, tell us, could you give us an example of how you would help somebody? Let's say, they've had some success in real estate or business or whatever, but they're just not feeling as motivated as maybe they were 10 years ago. And just like what you went through, you feel like you got to prove yourself. Where would somebody start if they wanted to go through a transformation?
Yeah, so it's nearly impossible to find your purpose when you're fighting for your worth. That's why when I stopped fighting for my worth, boom, my purpose just slapped me across the face, right? So honestly, start with the self-love quiz. If you have extreme self-love, then there's not much I or anyone can do for you. But if you answer those questions honestly and authentically, like Jeremy suggested, and you have a lack of self-love or mild self-love, you've got a lot of work that you can possibly do. So whether it's me or someone else, go find someone who can, through some type of therapy or counseling, through hypnosis, can access your subconscious mind and figure out what is causing you to not be motivated. So I look at myself right now, and what motivates me every day is to change people's lives, because my life was so profoundly changed. I don't wake up every day saying, how much money can I make? This was the first business actually that I ever started where I didn't have money in mind. And I bet you if we have this podcast in a couple of years, I'll probably make more money from this business than any other business I ever have, because all I want to do, I just love it so much. So if you're floundering out there, guarantee it's from your thinking, and it's that lack of self-love that's generating the thinking, the poor thinking.
Awesome. Well said. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate your time and what you're doing for everybody out there. Thanks for sharing your wisdom about investing and life and all that great stuff. If there's anything else you want to say to anybody before we go, what would it be?
So yeah, listen up, because this is important, right? If you're suffering in any way, shape, or form, you've got a shitty marriage, your kids have behavioral issues, you're overweight, you drink 3 glasses of wine when you come home, your business is in chaos. You don't have to suffer. There's a reason behind all of this stuff. None of it is your fault. I'm not saying don't take responsibility for your actions, but your actions are driven by something that was never your fault. You were put through a situation as a child that likely programmed this into you. So if you're suffering, you don't have to suffer. There's too many people in this world that are like, this is just the way it is. I'm in this shitty marriage. I have this shitty business. I'm way overweight, but there's nothing I can do. I've tried everything. Well, I'm here to tell you that I tried everything too. And it's not until you get into that subconscious mind and figure out that everything in your world can change. So just know that whether it's me or someone else, don't settle in life. Like, life is not supposed to be suffering. Life is supposed to meant to be this beautiful thing that you live joyfully, and you have these deeply connected relationships with other human beings. So take that first step. Just every journey begins with that first step. Take that first step. Call me, call someone else, but just do something. Don't stay stuck.
I love it.
So good. Such good stuff.
Brad, your passion is infectious, and I want to definitely thank you again for stopping by today. We definitely appreciate you having on, and we look forward to connecting with you in the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks again, everybody. And keep in mind, if you feel like you're settling out there, you better get excited, because that means you have room to grow. Mm-hmm. So go to bradchandler.com/quiz. Take your quiz. See you later.
Thank you so much for checking out the Investor Shed podcast. If you enjoyed your time, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow along on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Investor Shed for shorts and promos about each episode. Do you want to be a guest or know someone who has great real estate investing advice and stories? Reach out to us at theinvestorshed@gmail.com.